let's talk about our brand new Mixed Media Additives, or MMAs for short. You might be wondering what they are, and more importantly, what can you actually do with them? Well, it's Tasha here, and today I'm sharing just some of the ways that you can incorporate our innovative mixed media additives into your crafts. First, let's take a look at each one up close, starting with silver glass, which is currently only available as part of our $1 million duo. Silver glass has loads of different sized chunks, and the way that these catch the light is incredible. They aren't sharp at all, but they are quite dimensional. We've also got two individually sold MMAs, Dragon Scales and Harlequin. Both are made up of polymer flakes. They're flat and look almost like paint chips, with a variety of sizes found throughout. Dragon Scales is a gorgeous deep green, and Harlequin is a fun mix of bright yellow green and blue green. Both of them have a matte finish. Now, let's look at some of the ways that you can use these in your designs. Some examples lean further into the mixed media territory, but if that's not your style, then don't be put off, because we have some fabulously clean and simple examples to share too. I've got a scrap of card here, and I'm applying white embossing paste to it. I'm going to thin it out on one side and leave it thicker on the other. Now, I like to create more texture with my palette knife in those thicker areas. Then I can sprinkle some of our Dragon Scales and Harlequin mixed media additives over. You can gently pat them in or leave them so that they're kind of sticking up. You could also mix them through the paste before applying it for a kind of tile terrazzo kind of look. And of course, you could use silver glass in this way too. You can either set that aside to dry naturally or speed things up using setting 1 of your dual speed heat tool. Now let's look at some heat embossing techniques for them. I've got a scrap of card and I'm squishing it into my Wow ultra slow drying embossing ink. Now I'll apply some of our black ultra high powder and melt from below to give me a nice base to start with. Once it's cooled, I've added more ink and sprinkled over a second layer. But before heating this, I'm sprinkling some of that silver glass on top. Now heating from below again, because if you go from the top, those bits are going to get blown away before the powder melts and can grab onto them. Once it's done, let's take a moment to appreciate how good this looks. That double layer of ultra high powder has let those bits sink into it, so you've got a really smooth surface, but with those gorgeous pops of metallic looking goodness. Next, you could mix them with your powder before you add it to the panel. So I'm just mixing some more of the silver glass with some of the Vegas gold embossing powder, which is the other half of that $1 million duo. Now, I'm mixing it in the lid because I'm lazy, but we do sell empty jars so that you can mix up your own concoctions. Please do make sure though that you never use any other plastic containers and you always using a metal spoon with your Wow embossing powders. Both our powder and our jars are treated to remove static, so using plastic is going to undo all of that hard work we've gone to. Again, heating from below. Now, this is a regular grade powder, which means it's not going to be as thick a layer as the black that we just used. So you've got lots more of the silver glass sitting above the embossing. Okay, now let's try embossing with the others. This time I'm going to use the mixed media brush to apply ink into that middle section there. Always make sure that you really get rid of the excess ink when you take the brush out of the bottle. Then I'm applying Pastiche, which is also from this release. Now, it's a gorgeous embossing sparkle with loads of texture and different powders inside. I started heating it from below again, just enough to get the melting started. Then I'm going to add a little bit more powder directly onto it, just to even the layer somewhat. Now I can sprinkle some of the Harlequin and dragon scales over before fully heating it all from below. You can try any of these techniques combined with any way that you already like to use embossing in your crafts. Same goes for the embossing powder as well. You can use these with any of the powders that you have in your own stash. Okay, let's mix it up with some double-sided adhesive now. Now, this one that I'm using is a heat-safe tape. First up, I'm pouring dragon scales all over this top one, and I'm lightly pressing them in before tipping and tapping the excess off. There'll be loads of gaps in between all those different sized chunks, so I'm going to pour pastiche over, and that's going to fill in all of those gaps. Again, getting all the excess off, and then we'll heat that one shortly when we finish the other strips. For the next strip, I'll add silver glass first. Again, pressing down to make sure that they're really on that adhesive. Then apply Vegas Gold, and I'm using a brush here to really pack that in there. And then I can use that brush to sweep away any excess too. Now, for the third strip, I'm going to try something else. I'm applying Harlequin in the same way and tipping the excess onto my scrap paper. But I'm actually going to crush these flakes with the back of my paintbrush. I want to get some smaller shards, but also some finer dust, and that's all going to fill in the gaps, and that means I don't need to add any embossing powder here. All of that tape is already covered. Just be really sure to really press it into all that tape, because without any embossing on there, the tape is going to be the only thing that's holding it on. After heat setting the first two lines, I've got these gorgeous 3 strips, which could be used absolutely anywhere. Or why not try die cutting from card that has got double-sided adhesive on it, and then applying whatever concoction on there. Now, I was really running out of time here, but you can also apply them onto dots of liquid adhesive, using them like embellishments, for example. And why not try using these as shaker elements too, either within a mixture of different bits or on their own. Like I said before, this really is not an exhaustive list of every way to use our MMAs, but it's just some ideas to get you started. Now let's take a closer look at some of the ways our team incorporated MMAs into their own style. Laura used not one, but 2 techniques. For the background, she's applied paste and Harlequin flakes through a stencil. The TV screen is cut from cardstock with double-sided adhesive on, covered in Harlequin with a layer of glossy accents for that extra dimension. Amanda has used double-sided adhesive tape to create stripes of silver glass across her background. Clean and simple, made wow. Emily sprinkled Harlequin flakes over an embossed panel before adding a little more heat from below to make sure that the embossing really grabbed onto those flakes. Aditi made these embossed die-cut stars really pop off the page thanks to the addition of some Harlequin flakes. Michelle added dragon scales to her melted wax before placing a wax stamp on top, and it turned out crazy beautiful. Nikki has used Harlequin as her shaker bits in this fun balloon shaker birthday card. And Queen has got Harlequin and dragon scales behind vellum in this full panel shaker for a softer look. Jane created this by sandwiching dragon scales between layers of clear gloss on black cardstock. Sarah has used a mix of both dragon scales and Harlequin to fill up this cute shaker design. And I created a thick and chunky strip of silver glass on top of some double-sided adhesive as a backdrop to some florals. And you'll see loads more inspiration in the coming days and weeks. We've got an FAQ section up on our information website, but if you have any other questions, you can either drop them in the comments below on our blog or send us an email. We can't wait to see what you all create with our brand new and innovative mixed media additives. We'd love for you to share your creations with us using hashtag #WowMMAs on whichever social media platform you use. Have a lovely, happy, safe and wonderful week. Happy crafting!